Major funding for these programs is made possible by grants from Chase Commercial Term Lending, New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Genova Burns, Terra CRG, Meridian Capital Group, Wyckoff Organization. Additional support is made possible by AKA Hotels Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Eastern Union Funding, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hersha Hospitality, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, The Continuum Company, The Moynihan Group, and these friends.
It's called Jersey City. It's a place where there are so many things taking place. People from around the world are investing over there. There's nightlife, there are residential, there's office, there are great colleges. So what's happening in Jersey City? Today I've assembled this group of distinguished individuals, I'm not sure about that, who are going to provide their insight on what's happening in Jersey City. My guests today include Eugene Paolino, who is the senior partner of Genova Burns, Ken Pasternak, who is the managing partner and co-founder of the KABR Group, Jeff Persky, who is a partner at KRE Group, Bernie McSherry, who is the interim dean at the NJCU School of Business, and last but not least, the deputy mayor, who originally was from New York, okay, Marcus Vigil, the deputy mayor for Jersey City. So you were telling, how did you end up in Jersey City before you even had the job in Jersey City?
Well, my wife and I were both students here in the city. We were attending Fordham Law School at Lincoln Center. And at the time, it was during the transition in Hell's Kitchen. So there were rents that we could afford as students. But as Times Square kept on expanding and Chelsea kept on expanding northward, we started moving westward, looking for those cheaper rents that we could afford, even as we started our legal careers. And every 2 or 3 years, whenever that lease was up, we were moving 1 or 2 blocks west, until eventually there was no more land. We either had to cross the river or find another thing to do. And as we looked across Hudson County, Jersey City was the place that called us. It was also in a transition period where we saw a lot of families like ourselves, young couples that were married, had little kids. A lot of people commuted to work either to Manhattan or to the west side of New Jersey.
So how many years are you in Jersey City now?
It's been about 8 years now.
Now, so we're going to change the direction. How many years have you been in Jersey City? Your entire life?
Nearly my entire life, yeah. That's
so
50
what is invigorated? What has changed the world of Jersey City? I mean, 10 years ago, I did my first show ever on Jersey City. It was a different world, okay? It was, people said, you know, there weren't schools, there weren't restaurants, there wasn't retail. What has happened? Why did the kid from Fleischmann's, New York, make a decision to come to Jersey City? I mean, you went there once because you were a trader, but after being a trader, why did you get there to be an investor in
Well, I
Jersey
think
City?
it's a confluence of both what I call an urban transit village lifestyle choice. I think this new millennial word may be a little overused because I actually like it myself. I like the idea of living in a transit village, of having a walk access to a myriad of entertainment and food possibilities. And the fact that Jersey City's bones or infrastructure, both from a mass transit point of view and the housing stock that was available there, a lot of people don't know, but some of the most beautiful brownstone neighborhoods in the metropolitan New York area are in Jersey City, along with a lot of developable land, riverfront developable land you can build 50-story office towers on. So it all comes together. Proximity to New York, about 15 minutes from Herald Square, cost differential, a lifestyle choice, good bones, entertainment, and food.
You've been there for what, 15 years?
About 15, 16 years.
So what made Murray and you say, I'm going to go to Jersey City? Was it the cost of the land being less expensive at that time? Was it opportunities because at that time we didn't have the light rail. We had the train, we had the path, but we didn't have the light rail, which has been very important in the transitioning of Jersey City.
The light rail was being built at that time. And quite frankly, I went into Jersey City one day. I was actually in the midst of buying some industrial buildings, and I was meeting someone in Jersey City for lunch. And when I drove in, I was just awestruck by what was going on there. And a lot of it was based on the water. And I had a conversation with Murray, and we talked about, well, if you're one stop off the water, everything's been done so well at Exchange Place and at Newport, why not Grove? Grove was a little bit challenging at the time, but Pershing was across the street. They had put up a big office building. And we decided that we would investigate land around Grove Street because, as Ken said, the bones were there. Everything was there. And the land prices were favorable. And the government was really very helpful in terms of accommodating the density and then making it economically viable to build there.
One of the difficulties today in New York City is everybody's complaining that there's no 421A tax abatements for some new residential. What's happening in the city of Jersey City with regard to abatements for residential, abatements for office, and so on?
Well, we decided to take a fresh look at the incentives that were being provided and understanding the market along the waterfront and in downtown was hot. How to help developers look at those other parts of the city that had been neglected before. So we put our strongest incentives to develop those parts of the city around Journal Square, about what we call the spine of the city on the Palisades itself, and on the west side. So that's where, these folks over here can apply for potentially a 30-year tax abatement if it's a worthy project that will transform the neighborhood.
Now, what happened with NJCU School of Business, Ernie?
Well, we saw an opportunity. We have our main campus over on JFK Boulevard, which is a few miles further inland, not perhaps as accessible to public transportation. And we saw what was happening downtown along the waterfront in the Gold Coast area, and we thought this was a great opportunity for us to move our business school to where the action was. There are businesses all around us. There are 12 million people passing through that Exchange Place path station every year, and access to New York City. It's just ideal for our students and for our faculty.
Now, where are most of your students from? Are they Jersey City residents? Are they New Jersey residents in general, or they're a mixture?
It's a mixture. The majority of our students come from within a 15 or 20 mile radius, but we have an enormous number of international students now coming to us, and the community itself is quite global. We talk about the importance of global business. We have a global experience in our classroom every day. We have 50 or 60 languages that are spoken in our School of Business by our student body.
Now, if somebody said to Jeff and Murray 15 years ago, the Chinese would make an investment in Jersey City, someone would say these people have to be institutionalized because they're crazy, that there would never be that opportunity. What happened? How did China Construction and some other people make a decision to go to Jersey City?
They saw what everybody else saw, and that is they saw that was just like KRE, KABR, now Matt Cali, certainly Lefrak. They were a little late to the game, but nevertheless they came in powerfully, and they are now building a very large building immediately adjacent to 101 Hudson, which was a very remarkable project at the time. And it's going to be a high building with condominiums. So it's a residential building. You asked earlier about what attracted people to Jersey City, and it's the waterfront. I mean, everything you saw developed on the water, and now by virtue of the incentives, I think, and other reasons, the development is moving much farther west to General Square, to McGinley Square, to the West Campus. So you see that movement. That's a natural progression of where it should go. Developers are being attracted by those incentives and by the market and by the volume of success with respect to all of those other locations.
Well, when we have a community, and we were talking about a transit-oriented development, which Jersey City is because of that, you have a variety of components. You have to have residential, which you're taking care of and you're taking care of in many cases. You have to have office, which we'll get to in a second. You have to have retail, all different types of retail. You have to have hospitality, and you have to have some leisure. What's happening with regard to those?
As Gene mentioned, we have a couple of new hotels that are coming into the market. One at Grove Street, a couple over at the Exchange Place Plaza. We have several applications that we're reviewing right now as well. In terms of commercial and retail, that's also where we, for new construction, offer our strongest incentives. Understanding that the market is not the type where everyone is jumping in.
So what are the
develop.
incentives? Talk to me about what type of retail incentives do they get?
So, for example, in Journal Square, we've worked with the developers to add bonuses in terms of the height if commercial space goes in into the basis
basically, like inclusionary housing, if you build the retail, you're able to go a larger height?
Correct. And separate and apart from wherever the zone is, that's where the application as well for the 30-year tax incentive could go to. If the building itself is going to be mostly commercial, that's another project that we would tag because reality is that the economy of the state right now, it's basically a lot of it depends on the success of Jersey City. So to the extent that we can partner with the state and identify the right companies, the right partners to come into the city, that's definitely what we're looking for.
In that same vein, the School of Business could probably benefit from the partnerships with certain companies over there.
Oh, absolutely. One of the reasons we did move down there was the proximity of so many back office firms, that's clearing and settlement operations. There are lots of other types of businesses moving into the area, and they can help us provide experiential learning for our students. We've got internship things that are developing that we didn't really develop prior to coming down here. We're bringing in guest speakers. I'm also finding that it's easier to attract adjunct professors who might work in Manhattan but live in New Jersey because they're willing to get off that PATH train next door, come upstairs, teach a class or two, and go on home. So we're getting a much different level of instructor.
What are we talking about differences? People could say I could go to downtown Manhattan, or there's a lot of building taking place in Manhattan as it is in Brooklyn. What's the rent differential for residential in Jersey City as compared to Brooklyn or Manhattan or Queens?
Well, I think obviously they have strong submarkets. We're a riverfront. If you want to talk riverfront against riverfront, you're probably $50 versus $75 in Brooklyn or Long Island, and maybe even as high as $90 in Manhattan. I think one of the things to keep in mind about where all the pressure's coming, the pricing pressure upward is coming, which I think a lot of people don't realize, is we've created about 500,000 jobs in New York City since 2010, which is a tremendous engine. And most of those are high quality jobs. They're in education, hospitality, technology. We have the second most amount of technology workers in the United States after San Francisco. Google has more employees in New York City than California. So all those people need places to live. And that's where all the demand's coming from. I think to talk about what's happening at ground level, you have to understand this macro picture, which is this unbelievable, like New York City is having its time. And it's a growth engine and a job growth engine. And just to give you some idea, that job growth is equivalent to the previous 30 years in aggregate. And it looks like if you look at what's coming online, particularly in education, for instance, the universities that are being created, and you look at technology and the innovation that's occurring in New York, we're very bullish that job growth is going to continue, and all those benefits are going to really, come to Jersey City, Brooklyn, and Queens. But again, historically, our competitive advantage has been about a 30% price advantage and an equivalent or superior living experience from a transit connectivity, the type of housing we have, and all the amenities that are provided community-wide, and things that are really coming on board, education and even entertainment, which I'll let some other people talk a little bit about.
We, just to give you some insight, we have 3 buildings currently operating. We're probably I checked this morning, we're at about a 99.3% occupancy rate in those buildings. And
what type of average rent?
our average rent today is close to $45, $46 a square foot. When we opened Grove Point in 2007, I think our average rent was closer to $35, $36. And I'm a little concerned. We have a lot of units coming online. And Ken, you're going to open up pretty soon. But Iron State opened up across the street from us at Grove Point, and we haven't really felt any effects. So there's been units coming online, and we do have more. But so far, our rents have really held up, and the demand has really held up. That's the remarkable part. If we lose 20 tenants in a month, we have 22 applications.
Oh, what type of incentives are you giving tenants? Because in New York today, tenants are being offered 1 to 2 months free rent, which, it's become more of a tenant market as opposed to a landlord market.
Right.
Is there a 1 to 2 month free rent or a 14-month lease on a 12-month?
We're not giving any incentives right now. Now, that may change when, I think you're going up, 500 units you'll be opening shortly?
467.
467 and
Hey,
URL.
33 minus.
We don't anticipate having to give incentives. Again, when you look at job creation, we think there's plenty of demand. Anecdotally, the 3 or 4 buildings that opened up in the last 18 months have all exceeded their absorption targets by a factor of 2 to 1. And you're seeing that even in the re-up and the maintenance of where you are, both on the pricing side and the occupancy side.
Right.
So as long as we have job creation, we're not worried about.
And I think a lot of it too, Michael, it goes back to what you said. The office market in Jersey City is doing very well. So it's probably the strongest office market in New Jersey. So there is job creation.
Right, it's the Hudson County market.
Along the waterfront there.
On the waterfront, that's really
probably the only strong market.
But since Bernie and Ken both work there in that market. But in New York City last year, the largest tenants were in the TAMI structure. Technology, advertising, media, and internet. That's been, and then the other biggest tenant to take the market in New York was WeWorks. How do we see WeWork and office share and office co-living taking place in Jersey City? Any ideas on that? No, we're going to get. I want the government point.
No, from our perspective,
because
for example,
there's been
that's
a discussion about micro apartments also.
There's micro apartments going around the waterfront and in a couple of other areas in Jersey City. But in terms of a vision, which I believe not only the developers, the members of the community in Jersey City believe, it's bringing back Journal Square to that, center of the universe, as you might say, that it was in the 1950s. And
that was before Gene.
Actually, I remember it very well. Go on.
And the thing is that, so for example, we're talking about WeWorks. We have a project where we hope we'll be breaking ground at some point, where WeWorks has already, entered into conversations about coming in to occupy the space. It's the area and where, within a walking distance, as development continues, you're able to enjoy, the best type of expositions in Mana. In terms of art. So the incentives are there, but also the dynamism and energy that it's going to be office, entertainment, accessibility to art that has defined and connected to basically what the history of Hudson County and the Hudson County machine.
Certain people don't realize you have a great science museum in Jersey City. You have great opportunities and amenities over there and the convenience over there. So
A lot of it's part of this virtuous circle. We have a business development incubator. We have lots of students who are working on projects. They have entrepreneurial ideas. We connect them with local business folks. We give them some subsidized place to work, secretarial support, things like that. And then they grow up and they graduate out into the community and take on a bigger
What
space.
about, and I brought it up briefly, what about the idea of the micro apartments? In New York City, they build one micro building on the city housing property over there. You know, the apartments are basically 280 square feet to 330 square feet. What size micro apartments are being built or planned in Jersey City?
Well, the urban ready living community, I believe it's somewhere around 300 square feet, more or less.
275, 300, yeah.
And when you look, for example, at what's happening in the market downtown, you know, you have anecdotal stories of people moving in and basically working on shifts and occupying a two-bedroom. You know, you have 3 people living in those residences, so the demand is there. And, you know, being able to just use the space that you need, because let's face it, you know, most people right now don't necessarily need the library of books and all
It's
the
like the law
utensils,
firms.
right?
I mean, there's no law libraries anymore.
So it's more convenient, and the accessibility to the light rail and to be able to walk to your office to the extent that you're working downtown makes it that much more convenient.
There's 2 things I think about the WeWorks model that might be interesting as a plus to just living there. You know, it's a sharing economy idea. So there's a lot of sharing going on. The actual direct consumption per square foot is probably around 200 to 250 square feet for what you might call sleeping space, but not living space. And WeWorks envisions somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people living in the first tower that we're building. It's a 2-tower project. So you could have as many as 5,000 occupants there, but a little different than a commutation type of bedroom community is the wrong word, but a living only. It's a live create environment, and you're bringing 5,000 creators, innovators, to the Journal Square community, and the bet. So for us is, as members of Jersey City, is that those people will evolve. So many of those people will evolve their business models and their commitment to the community, and 5 and 10 years from now, they'll be owning brownstones or a 3-bedroom apartment and have, their 2 children and maybe a 20, 30, 50 employee company. And I think that kind of evolution in Journal Square around the other 10,000 units that are being built.
So in a similar question, a lot of people are downsizing. I mean, people from, let's say, Princeton, Hunterdon, other counties, Bergen County, their family moved out. They don't need this, Rumson County. They don't need the home anymore. And they want to be closer to their children. So I know a number of people have tried to be, part-time residents of Manhattan, but it's a rather expensive thing. Have you seen in your rentals and basically in the discussions, have you seen some of the baby boomers moving into Jersey City so they could be closer to their own families?
We're starting to see that. We're starting to see that particularly with people that grew up in Jersey City and that are coming back. And I mean, I had an interesting experience about 6-7 years ago, maybe a little longer. My daughter was married, and she got married in the Hyatt Hotel. And a lot of my friends came in, and even back then, they were astounded by what was going on here. And there was an immediate attraction. So I think you're starting to see people recognizing Jersey City as a very vibrant community. And in some of our buildings, I'm surprised, but there are, I don't want to say I'm old, but there's people approximately my age that are starting to move into a few of the buildings.
Now, to make as I was saying, the 24/7 community, you also have to make certain that the school system, that you can educate the millennium who gets married over there. What's happening with the schools?
A lot of credit has to go to the current Board of Education administration and its superintendent. Little by little, they're improving in terms of accountability. The schools have basically been performing pretty well. McNair High School is recognized as one of the top high schools in the state. Our middle schools as well, and we're working with the county.
And we know there's a good business school there.
Right. So, and the charter schools, because, for example, NJCU has really a good connection to one of the high schools as well that they've created. So it's all coming together just at the same time. You know, you have the economy doing well, companies moving in, the universities expanding, you have the schools improving and taking control back from the state to be able to do everything that is going on.
What about the restaurants? People coming in, new restaurants opening up? What are you seeing?
Downtown Jersey City, which is near the water, is there's a flock of restaurants coming in of all kinds. I mean, the mid-price restaurants, the white service restaurants, white table service restaurants. There's an enormous appetite for gourmet foods. You know, I hate to say this, millennials are foodies, and they look for that. You know, the phrase I've heard repeatedly among developers is live, work, play. You combine those live, work, play, you have access to work, you have a good place to live, and you can play in that area. You have a vibrant community.
Live, work, play, study.
Live, work, play, and study.
What about the supermarkets? I mean, it's important today.
Well,
we were saying recently there's
right,
Whole Foods just announced.
There was an announcement just the other day that Whole Foods is going to build a 40,000 square foot store on the corner of Marin and Columbus. And I'd take Gene's comment just a little bit further, where we built our first building, Grove Point, by the Grove Street Path Station. Newark Avenue has really transformed to where now it's a pedestrian mall. And there's restaurants and stores on both sides, and it's very vibrant. I happened to be there last night, and I was shocked how many people were walking up and down the street and how many people were out, and the restaurants, how crowded they were. So a lot of that walkability and just the neighborhood, the vibrancy is really starting to come. And a lot of it's been the government. They've really supported a lot of these programs that are very progressive.
So, as someone would say, you know, it's no longer your the old person's Jersey City. It's a vibrant community, you know, which has taken, what is it? Would you say the last 15 to 20 years?
I think it has. I think, Michael, if you look, when I got there 15, 16 years ago, there was one type of tenant. Today, I'm shocked at the amount of baby carriages so people are staying. Now, the schools are changing, as we said, the restaurants are changing, but our tenancy has changed where families are now staying in the buildings, and the 2 bedrooms are becoming more of a commodity than sometimes a 1 bedroom. So we didn't have that 15 years ago.
So in summation, we know that Manhattan, New York City, be a little scared because the guys from Jersey City are here and they're doing a good job, and it is, you know, you get a lot for your buck, as one would say. You know, you get a good deal. You have a lot over there, educationally, hospitality, residential, office. It's a good package, and I'm happy that we've assembled a good group of people. I'd like to thank Gene, Kenny, Jeff, Ernie, Marcos, and I'll see you next week.